Hey there, Bruce, and welcome back to Remember 11, Age of Infinity. It's the time you've all been waiting for. Time to actually, have this Enomoto guy tell us what the hell's going on. Hopefully. I'm sure it'll be obscure, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. Having said that, Enomoto once again took a seat and began typing something out on the keyboard. As he did, images began to appear on a nearby monitor. In other words, the reason you've been able to derive goes something like this, doesn't it? Fuyukawa Kokoro, who exists at the Mount Akakura of the year 2011, and you, Yukido Satoru, who exists on Aosagi Island in the year 2012, both of your consciousnesses are released from their respective bodies, jump through space and enter into each other's. Just like this. And so, you possess the body of Fuyukawa Kokoro in the year 2011, and likewise, Fuyukawa Kokoro possesses yours. A personality exchange. This is how you thought of it, right? Or am I wrong? That's right. However, there are things that this doesn't explain. You're referring to the moon and the ocean, correct? Yeah. Of course, they're contradictions. Enomoto snickered. I'll say it once more, but you've been misunderstanding. This line of thinking is incorrect. A space-time transfer, you said. Just what does that mean? This. Enomoto tapped at the keyboard again. The monitor began to display a different image. The year 2011, Mount Akakura, Fuyukawa Kokoro. The year 2012, Aosagi Island, Yukido Satoru. The initial conditions are the same as before, but here's where it differs. In the phenomenon that you're currently experiencing, it's not your personality that transfers. You said it was space itself transferring before, didn't you? Yes. A space with a radius of 110 meters, with the Mount Akakura emergency shelter cabin in the center, and the Aosagi Island sphere at the center of a space with the same radius of 110 meters. Everything within the 110 meter radius of the sphere is transferred. Every last thing within those two spheres changes places between the same 2 points between the years 2011 and 2012. Just like this. This is the phenomenon called the space-time transfer. Like this, you have a 110 spherical enclosure around the shelter cabin. Or you could just call it a circle instead. And so, outside the shelter cabin circle lies the ocean of Aosagi Island. Wait a second. What about me and Kokoro? Why are my body and Kokoro switching places? And what about the moon? The moon I saw on the 13th was the same one as the one in the year 2012, no matter how I looked at it. You two are the exception. An exception? Your consciousnesses don't transfer, they remain in their original space. Remain? Watch. Enomoto pointed to the monitor. The image had changed without me noticing. On the verge of a transfer, your and Fuyukawa Kokoro's consciousnesses alone separate from their bodies and remain in place. Your consciousness is at Aosagi Island in the year 2012 and Fuyukawa Kokoro's at Mount Akakura in the year 2011. And while your consciousnesses separate from their bodies and remain, everyone else is completely transferred. After having lost the containers you call bodies, you and Fuyukawa Kokoro enter these backup containers of the others' bodies and possess them. Which... looks a bit like this. You're in Fuyukawa Kokoro's body and Fuyukawa Kokoro in your body. Well, as sharp as you are, you understand it now, don't you? I mean, it's not that fucking complicated, yes. This is the truth of the transference phenomenon you're undergoing. That's why I always saw the year 2012's moon. Precisely, Enomoto said, nodding as he did. Why it's only your consciousness that remain, I don't understand. I said barely above a whisper. Who knows? I wonder what it means. I hadn't expected Enomoto's response. The inside of my head was in total chaos. As soon as one question was solved, another rose to take its place, and another, continuing on without end. Solving one puzzle only brought forth another. There was no end. These mysteries were inexhaustible. On and on and on and on. Around and around it went in an endless circle. I don't believe it. Something like this, it couldn't possibly. However, it's actually happening, is it not? You should know better than anyone else whether it's real or not. No matter how much you think about it, no truth will appear. Don't let yourself be trapped by so-called common sense. Take in what you feel, no matter how absurd it is. Enomoto stared at me over his sunglasses. I couldn't look away. There's no way he was lying. That understanding came not from my head, but from a deeper instinct. But why is such a ridiculous phenomenon occurring in the first place? Oh dear. There should have been no need for me to explain this in the first place, but there's no helping it. It'll be long, so I'll try to summarize where I can. Inamoto repositioned his sunglasses. Have you ever heard of quantum teleportation? Vaguely. So I'm going to say yes. That's convenient, then I'll omit that part of the explanation. Originally, quantum teleportation couldn't transfer things like humans. Many thought it could only be used to transfer photons and atoms and other atomic particles. However, the technology developed by the business enterprise I belong to has made it possible. What we transfer is the state of the atoms disassembled, the quantum information of human bodies. By the way, the original quantum information is lost after the transfer. In the case of inanimate objects, the transfer would only create a copy of the object, but when humans are transferred, the original human disappears inside the circle of transmission. They die, and then reconstruct themselves at the reception point. In other words, they are resurrected. However, you two are an exception. Your consciousnesses remain at the origin of the transfer. At first glance, it may seem as if your soul has left its body. This is the true nature of the phenomenon I mentioned earlier, wherein you lose the containers you call bodies. Getting back to the point, if this quantum teleportation construction is established at two different points, mutual transfers between them becomes possible. Mount Akakura and Aosagi Island, both, their quantum information is transferred between them. Have you found my explanation understandable? Yeah. Once he finished talking, Inamoto exhaled and brought the coffee cup to his lips. How unpleasant. It's gone completely cold. I see. I understand that the space-time transfer is actually quantum teleportation, though I don't know what quantum teleportation and transferring through space and time have to do with each other. Especially time. Travelling through space aside, how is it possible to transfer through time? I thought you might ask. Very well. Then I'll continue my explanation. Inamoto lowered his cup. First, a device for enabling space-time transfer exists. It's the same as what I stated before. The space-time transfer phenomenon device. That's what I call it. This device acts as the source that brings forth the EPR's pairs particles, measures those particles, and then transfers them to the reception point. It's the heart of the space-time transfer, so to speak. A technical explanation would be fine. What I want to hear isn't some... I know. Don't get so worked up. Inamoto held up a hand to command silence before continuing. The device possesses one additional ability. And that is... the ability to bend time. Bend time? Correct. It's restricted to a predefined space, however. I don't know what you mean. Exactly how you saying bending time and jumping through time-space are related. Well, I'll skip the theoretical bits, but in short it's this. Inamoto tapped something on the keyboard. This figure represents time and space as a two-dimensional diagram. The y-axis represents time and the x-axis represents space, specifically the latitude of each location. And then... think of this red mark as the Mount Akakura of 2011, and this blue mark as the Aosagi Island of 2011. Both exist on the same time axis, but in different locations. If we move both pieces into a plus region of the y-axis, it becomes like this. The time in which the 2 points exist changes from 2011 to 2012. This is the normal passage of time we experience. You understand this much, correct? No problems yet. As you can see, Mount Akakura and Aosagi Island exist on the same time axis, so nothing stands in the way of transfer between them. That's right. However, at the moment it's more like this. The Mount Akakura at which Fuyukawa Kokoro exists is in the year 2011, and the Aosagi Island where we currently stand is the year 2012. Not only space, but the time axis differs as well. Like this, transfer is impossible. The twin particles are unable to jump between the 2 points, and the results of the measurements can't be transferred between the sending and receiving ends. In other words, the conversion of quantum information can't occur. That's exactly it. Then what do you do? No. How does it happen? The two coordinate points are connected by a single straight line, a link between them. For the time being, let's call this line T. But that won't help anything, will it? You still don't understand. I told you before, didn't I? This device can bend time. That's impossible. A smile floated to Inamoto's face. Muttering, "That's right," Inamoto began typing on his keyboard and the image on the screen changed. Shown there was the image of the y-axis time slanted and the line marked T perpendicular to it. According to this theory, no, you can see how it is a matter of fact. The 2 points can exist on the same time axis. That solves all the problems we had before in one fell swoop. The conditions for the transfer of quantum information have been met. Like this, the Mount Akakura Circle in the year 2011 and the Aosagi Island Circle in the year 2012 can transfer back and forth over and over again. Okay? Sure. The ramblings of a fool. A really honestly, seriously, maddeningly, accursedly unrealistic bunch of crap. However, it was the truth. My own body had experienced it time and time again. No matter how unbelievable it was as a mere theory, it's unmistakably the reality. And that's why my comprehension was really honestly, seriously, maddeningly, accursedly being torn apart. My mind still struggled violently against the very notion. It seems you still can't accept it. Oh well. Shall I show you proof? Of what? The space-time transfer, of course. That said, it's impossible to demonstrate a large-scale transfer like what's happening to you. I have a prototype of the space-time transfer device right here. If I show you the device in action, then even you'll be convinced, right? Saying that, Inamoto disappeared through the iron door beside the supercomputer. After a while, he returned holding a complicated-looking piece of equipment. This is the prototype of the space-time transfer device. I'll give you a rough explanation. Inside the box, in the middle, is the origin of the EPR pair, where the particles intertwine with each other on a quantum level. And those two boxes at either side represent Alice and Bob, the sender and receiver. Enough showing off, I'll understand once I see it. Get started already. That's enough, is it? Then let's put some nice hot coffee inside Alice and Bob, shall we? 2 cups of coffee were in Inamoto's hands. One was a white cup on a white saucer, the coffee inside had milk in it. The other was a black cup and a black saucer, the coffee inside was black. Inamoto placed 1 cup in each of the Alice and Bob boxes and then switched on the device. Now the dull whiner began to operate. By the way, Alice is the Mount Akakura of 2011, and the white saucer is Mount Akakura's transfer circle. So think of the white cup as Fuyukawa Kokoro, while Bob is the Aosagi Island of 2012 and the black saucer is Aosagi's Island Circle. The black cup will be you, Yukido Satoru. I see. And? Inamoto then brought Bob's coffee cup to his lips. Delicious. Coffee is most definitely best black, and freshly brewed at that. And on the other side, Inamoto then put the cup back in one place and this time took a sip from the Alice coffee. Coffee with milk in it's the worst. Coffee can't even be called coffee anymore once it's contaminated like this. Frowning, Inamoto returned the cup. Don't you agree? This conversation's kind of straying off topic. That's not true. This is an essential part of the process. What, dissing milk coffee? Okay, milk coffee sucks. I mean, I don't drink milk coffee either, I only drink black coffee. Black coffee all the way. How about you? Do you enjoy your coffee black or with milk? Black, isn't it obvious? I don't take sugar either, the bitterness is what makes coffee coffee. I see, our opinions really do match, Inamoto said happily. Well, once you have a sip, confirm it with your own tongue. Of this? I asked while pointing at the Alice and Bob coffees with my finger. The coffee that you drank? That's right. Don't worry, there isn't any poison in it. I drank it too, right? And I don't have any strange illness either. My motives are pure. Relax. Well, I won't force you. Is it that important that I drink this just for the sake of proof? Of course. I look back and forth between the 2 cups of coffee. Man, I mean, I doubt he's gonna kill us, but you never know. I took a timid sip from each coffee in turn. How is it? The Bob one, in other words, the one that's black, is distinctively better. I answered while returning the coffee to its place. I see, very well. Then let's continue. Continue? What am I supposed to do? You don't need to do anything. Just watch. Inamoto and I kept a tight watch over the device. It sure doesn't look like anything's happening. Now, just watch. Inamoto checked his wristwatch. Any moment now. At that very moment, Alice transformed. In an instant, the cup went from white to black. The coffee inside became black as well. It transferred. Then the coffee inside that cup is exactly the future. The information inside Bob's cup from 1 minute in the future has transferred alongside Alice's. And in just 1 more minute, another minute passed. Bob's cup transformed as well. The cup and saucer went from black to white. Now there was milk in the coffee. Past. The information of Alice's cup from 1 minute in the past is transferred to Bob's in the future. That's precisely it. You understand quite well. This is a transfer. Quantum teleportation. Now then, try taking a sip from each of them and compare them again. Huh? Just do it. You'll understand once you drink. Trying to set aside my doubts, I take another sip from each coffee. Huh? How is it now? Bob's. In other words, the coffee with milk in it was really good. Inamoto smiled in satisfaction. What does that even mean? You don't understand, do you? Even though the material of the cup has changed, the concept of its deliciousness remains. Doesn't this remind you of something? Consciousness. Yes, the residual consciousness phenomenon. Even if your bodies and surroundings change places, your consciousness would remain where it was. Here ends this demonstration. Wait, trying to explain something as vague as taste? He's saying that taste is unreliable. That's right, taste is subjective and can change completely depending on how you feel at the time. Well, I can't deny that. I told you before, didn't I? Even if you think about it, the truth won't appear. Don't let yourself be trapped by so-called common sense. Take in what you feel. But that's... Then let me ask you a supplementary question. What is the meaning behind the repetitions of this transfer? How can you explain it? I was truly at a loss for words. Do you believe me now? Believe, he says. With this, I had no choice but to believe him. It's in my nature to be skeptical of things like this, but between everything I'd experienced up until now, and the phenomenon that just occurred right before my eyes, there was no room for doubt. This, no matter what anyone may say, was reality. But, if it's already been decided that the space-time transfer phenomenon is the truth, it creates another new question, and that's, why? I utter. What do you mean, why? Why is something like this necessary? Why a space-time transfer? It's because of this phenomenon. Because of this ridiculous phenomenon. We. How much suffering, how much pain have we had to bear? Being pushed to our limits with the Grim Reaper ever breathing down our necks. Stuck in this ongoing turmoil, Kokoro and I have been driven right to the verge of madness. Inamoto didn't answer. Not saying a thing, he continued staring at me. Answer me. Why would you do such a ridiculous thing? Laughter. He laughed. His shoulders shook as he laughed as though it were the funniest thing he'd ever heard. What? What's so funny? But it is funny. Terribly, extraordinarily funny. So funny I can't help myself. After all, I never expected I'd hear that line from you, of all people. Pardon me. For the current you, such a question is only a matter of course. Then allow me to answer. This space-time transfer, the reason the entire thing began, the purpose of it, that is... Inamoto suddenly raised his finger toward me. That's something you should know better than anyone, right? It's to save Mayuzumi, isn't it? Satoru started this project to save Mayuzumi, right? That's my guess. What? My voice cracked. It took all I had to say just that. The reason is something I should know better than anyone. That's my answer. There's no point in saying anything more. At that moment, something completely different popped into my mind. About the various problems I needed to solve. I'd combined them into one large proposition, R. R1, the personality transfer. R2, the goals that I have at both Aosaki Island and Mount Akakura. R3, Utsumi and Hattori. I thought, and then I suddenly realized. No, rather than realize, I remembered I'd forgotten all about it. Proposition R had yet another part. About me, the person known as Yukido Satoru. I didn't know anything about who I was. Hey, what is it? Oh god, we're freaking out. At that moment I lost myself, as though the strings of a marionette had suddenly been taken up by someone else. I lost all control over my own body. Calm down, you won't solve a thing by going berserk. Shut up. Look, we're in a mental hospital, okay? Going berserk is kind of what we do around here. Nothing matters anymore. I don't care about any of it. Everything. I lean everything here. What are you saying? Hey, snap out of it. Inamoto tried to regain his hold over me. Don't touch me. Is this why we murdered him? Because he doesn't seem hostile. I slapped his hands away. Don't you dare touch me. I eyed the large machine beside Inamoto. The central part of the facility, the system supercomputer. I'm sure it's this, right? This is the source, right? What? This is the space-time transfer device, isn't it? Then I'll break it. I'll destroy it completely. I'll end this idiotic farce for good. Thrusting Inamoto aside, I struck the supercomputer with a ferocious roundhouse kick. However, it was steadier than I'd expected. It didn't even make a dent. Damn. I kicked it twice, then 3 times without hesitation. Let alone dent it, I hadn't even managed to scratch it. This thing sure is durable. Hey, stop it. Cut that out. Inamoto pinned me down. He moved to secure both my arms behind my back. Give it up. Destroying it won't change a thing. The transfers won't stop. Shut up. Let me go. Stay out of my way. Wrenching my body with all my strength, I shook Inamoto off. Yeah. Inamoto fell to his back. At that moment, his sunglasses flew off and spun off into the corner of the room. Stop it! Shut up! I glimpsed the chair out of the corner of my eye. I could smash it with that. Because it exists, because this damn computer exists. Everyone's suffering all because of this damn computer. Damn it, go to hell! I told you to stop. Inamoto suddenly leapt to his feet, unleashing a deranged scream at me. Are you trying to ruin all my plans? Yes. The next instant, Inamoto blocked my path to the supercomputer with terrific speed. A chill ran down my spine. I could feel a bloodthirsty aura. Reflexively, I lifted the chair and hurled it toward Inamoto. Inamoto nimbly turned, deflecting the flying chair with one kick. As you are right now, you're a dangerous variable. I can no longer allow you to go freely. You insolent nuisance. In Inamoto's eyes, it was the clear intent to kill. He was no longer the calm, collected man he'd been before. Conversely, seeing Inamoto like that forced me to return to my senses. Cold sweat trickled down my back. This is bad. Warning signals lit up in my brain. Inamoto thrust his hand into his breast pocket as he glared at me. A switchblade. Inamoto gripped it in his hand. I'd rather avoid doing this, but you've left me no other choice. This feeling. It was the same feeling I'd felt before. A killing intent as cold as ice. Was it him all along? Have you prepared yourself? Yukido Satoru, I'm going to erase you. Inamoto suddenly narrowed his eyes. I'll kill you. Raising the knife high overhead, Inamoto attacked. Immediately reversing direction, I dashed for the door. I had to run. I flew out of the door and into the basement storeroom. Total darkness greeted me. For some reason, the lights in the basement were off. Had Inamoto cut the power? No, that didn't matter right now. At any rate, I had to get out of here as soon as possible. And the moment I thought that, I tripped over a wooden box. Damn it! Losing my balance, I fell. The concrete floor rose up before my eyes, as though I were falling in slow motion. Am I gonna die? Those words scrolled through my mind. We'll have to hope that Kokoro saves you again. And we know she will. Before I had a chance to notice, everything around me changed. The smells had entered my nostrils, the feeling of the air touching my skin, the temperature, everything had changed. I was on a bed in the shelter cabin. I was lying down, staring at the ceiling. I transferred into Fuyukawa Kokoro's body. You mean Fuyukawa Kokoro's body transferred into our consciousness? Damn, what awful timing. Is Kokoro alright? She transferred right in front of a crazed killer, and just as I'd been about to fall too. I cursed my own worthlessness. I'm sorry, Kokoro. Please, please be safe. Don't let him get you. Don't die. Please survive. I prayed fervently, closing my eyes. So I did the only thing I could. I waited. Waited for the time I could return to SPHIA. 33 minutes, baby. I was desperate. If Kokoro dies because of me, just the thought made me feel sick to the heart. I took off her wristwatch and checked the time. Present time, 6:45 p.m. In 33 minutes I can go back. And when I do, I can save her, assuming that she's still even alive. It was the longest 33 minutes I'd ever experienced. I was unable to contain myself. I had to do something. That's right. It dawned on me. I reached into my pocket. I took out the voice recorder. What I can do for her now is leave a message for her. I have to explain what's going on so she'll understand everything when she safely returns. I pushed the record button. Kokoro, at this very moment I'm being chased through SPHIA. I ended up jumping here right after I was attacked. I'm begging you, please make it out safely. Damn it, not being able to do anything is so irritating. If your personality ended up dying because of me, I don't know how I'd ever be able to apologize to you. I don't even mind if I lose an arm, so please be safe somehow, Kokoro. I'd spoken with a tone so desperate it almost sounded like I was throwing up blood. I hit the stop button and jammed the voice recorder back into my pocket. I closed my eyes, stood still and waited for the time to arrive. I think that Yomogi and Yuni tried to talk to me as I waited, but I couldn't even hear them. I'm begging you. Please be alright. Kokoro. That was all I could think about. Finally. 33 minutes passed. The scenery shifted before my eyes. I transferred to SPHIA. I was still in the basement storeroom. I was frozen in place right in the middle of it. My body was still safe. Kokoro had somehow made it through the danger. I didn't feel any pain in particular. I felt something cold for some reason, but I didn't seem to be injured anywhere. Thank you, Kokoro. No words could possibly express how grateful I am to you. I couldn't even imagine how I could begin to thank you for this. At any rate, I'm so glad it's over. The tension I felt disappeared in an instant. Eventually, my focus shifted from my inner musings to my current surroundings. I gave my body a once-over. Strange. Something strange. What is it? That's right, my left hand. My left hand was gripping some foreign object. Something cold and hard. I slowly shifted my gaze to my left hand. Wait, didn't that happen when Kokoro wasn't in control? That's why when she woke up here, she couldn't figure out who killed him? I was grasping a knife. It was the switchblade Inamoto pulled out earlier. It was covered in blood. I stared absently at the knife. What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? I somehow managed to still my shaking hands, then took stock of my surroundings. Inamoto was lying face down on the floor. He wasn't moving. His head was turned to the side and his eyes were wide open, and his face bore a look of anguish. A pool of blood was steadily growing beneath him. There was no doubt that he was dead. He's dead. Now he's been murdered. By whom? Isn't that obvious? The personality that was in my body while I was at Mount Akakura. Kokoro. Kokoro's the one that killed him. I mean, it's self-defense, right? So what? He was trying to kill you, so... or Kokoro, whatever. So Kokoro killed him back. I think that's okay. Don't you? I don't think that's murder, that's self-defense. Kokoro, but... Inamoto was about to kill Kokoro as well. It was a perfectly legitimate act of self-defense. Unavoidable. That's right, she had no other choice. She's innocent. She's not at fault here. That's what I wanted to believe. I returned my eyes to Inamoto's corpse. Looking closely, I saw countless numbers of stab wounds punched through it, which meant that the knife had been thrust into him over and over again. Gotta make sure, baby. Even in self-defense, there was no need to go this far. From those stab wounds, I sensed not an attempt to evade danger, but a clear intent to kill. But why? Was the woman known as Fuyukawa Kokoro really this kind of person? I didn't know. Kokoro, my partner at that moment. I felt a little scared of her. And just as that thought entered my mind, we got snapped. Something crossed in front of me. Huh? I was too slow to notice it. Whoever had just entered had suddenly grabbed the knife out of my left hand. We know who that is. Who's there? I looked frantically around. Please don't kill me. It was Hattori. Her entire body was covered in blood. Her arms, clothes, and face were all dyed a deep red. Had Hattori been standing right next to Inamoto when it happened? No, she's the one who killed him and then stuck the knife in our hand, right? Inamoto had bled after all. A large quantity of blood had probably gushed out of him when he was stabbed. In other words, she'd been showered with Inamoto's blood. That's probably how it was. Hattori, who had snatched the knife away from me, held it in both hands and was playing with it like a favoured toy. Hey! An eerie smile formed on Hattori's lips. The remnants of Inamoto's blood were beginning to drip from the knife and onto her hands. Stop it, that's dangerous. Give it back. Hattori wouldn't listen to me. She lifted the knife high on outstretched hands as though offering up an object of worship. The blood. The blood was dripping. Dripping, dropping down. Staining the concrete floor, marking it with crimson circles. Her actions were extremely unsettling. Hey. Hattori slowly lowered the knife. What is it? Hey, Satoru, which do you prefer? She looked at me with suspicion in her eyes. They were ever so slightly moist, wet and shimmering. Chills thrummed in my spine. Hey, which one? What do you mean? I mean, to stab or to be stabbed? Which do you prefer? I definitely... Then Hattori's voice faded out. Are you gonna stab me? Oh man. That's bad timing, man. Doesn't Hattori like freak out to Fuyukawa during that time? He's like threatening her with the knife and freaking out because Fuyukawa killed him or whatever. A transfer. The phenomenon that I'd pretty much been expecting to happen, happened. For the time being, both Kokoro and I were safe. There was a dead man there too. Naoya. I don't think we're as safe as we think we are. He'd been killed by Kokoro's consciousness. Are we sure about that? But in reality, it was my body that had hacked him up like that. The one holding the knife was me. I'm glad I was saved, but the outcome was rather horrible. It left a bad taste in my mouth. After I saw his dead body, I ended up at the shelter cabin. I wasn't terribly unsettled, but I couldn't just shift my mood right away after I arrived. Lin was in front of the stove. She was wrapped up in blankets, shivering. In the corner of the cabin, I saw Yomogi sitting atop a bundle of firewood. There was a lot less of it now. Where was Yuni? I glanced around the room looking for him. Yuni was standing behind me. He was looking up at me with a serious face. It seems as though the time has come, huh? And with that, he left the cabin. No one tried to stop him. The time has come? Inamoto's anguished face had been burned into my mind. I still felt the slippery sensation of blood on my palms. I couldn't shake it off, but I was anxious about Yuni. After hesitating for a while, I decided to follow him. After again making sure that my palms were clean, I put a hand to the door and quietly opened it. And with that, we're going to wrap this one up here because Yuni is finally doing the suspicious thing and doing whatever the hell he's doing, but God, I need to know what he's doing because I mean, the Mount Akakura Yuni has been sus as since day one, right? So is he finally going to tell us what the fuck is going on here? Because I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, thanks for watching, Bruce, and I'll see you in the next one.